Words like this or that. And by law, get you very far.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up two boxcars and making them run right. Words like this, bread and butter, peas and rice.
Hey, that's nice.
Dirty but happy, digging and scratching, losing your shoe and a button or two. He's poor but honest, sad but true.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up two cars to one when you say something like this. Choice, either now or later, or no choice. Neither now nor ever.
Hey, that's clever.
Eat this or that, grow thin or fat. Never mind, I wouldn't do that. I'm fat enough now.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up phrases and clauses that balance like out of the frying pan and into the fire. You cut loose the sandbags, but the balloon wouldn't go any higher. Let's go up to the mountains or down to the seas. You should always say thank you or at least say please.
Conjunction, what's your function?
Hooking up words and phrases and clauses in complex sentences like, in the mornings when I'm usually wide awake, I love to take a walk through the gardens and down by the lake where I often see a duck and a tree. And I wonder as I walk by just what they say if they could speak. Although I know that I
What's your function?
working up cards and make them function.
Conjunction, junction, how's that function?
Like tied up words and phrases and clauses.
Conjunction, junction, watch that function.
I'm gonna get you there if you're very careful.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
I'm going to get you there if you're very careful.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
I'm going to get you there if you're very careful.
Wow, that was a blast from the past. For those of you who may not be aware, that was Schoolhouse Rock. Conjunction, what's your function? That used to be one of my favorites, the Schoolhouse series. Well, good morning to those of you who are joined in with us this morning. I am Greg Stanton, also known as Asar, your host for Serendipity Sunday. Serendipity simply means something good and unexpected. So each and every Sunday when you join me out here, I hope to have something that will not only be good, but unexpected. Well, if you received the email from me, you see that this week, this month, we are dealing with dwelling in the field of possibilities. And I really like that that song that I introduced you to this morning. Some were being reintroduced to it. Some of you, that's the first time you've heard it, where it talks about the function of a conjunction. You know, it says conjunction, or conjunction, junction, what's your function? Hooking up words and phrases and clauses. Conjunction, junction, what's your function? I've got 3 favorite cards that get most of my job done. And those were and, but, and or. Well, this morning, we're going to look at briefly probably and but we're going to deal with the missing conjunction that many of us have to deal with. And if we learn to deal with this missing conjunction in this proper way, we can create more powerful lives. And that missing conjunction this morning that I want to introduce you to is if. We know if, and buts. You know, you hear people say, if I would have, and, or but. The one thing about buts is they usually get in the way. Too many of us are moving through life with many positives, possibilities, but we usually will say but. Whenever you say but, it is really entering into the conversation the possibility of the thing you desire not coming to pass. Remember the children of Israel when they were taken over into the promised land with a brief tour, and they came back and they began to share. 10 of them, the masses began to share what was found there, and that it was a land flowing with milk and honey. It was a land to be desired. But somebody said, but And it's that small B-U-T that gets in the way of our possibilities. So we got to learn how to move from the butt of not possible, or the butt of the conditions that we don't believe we can meet, to moving to the if. Now I want to talk about if today. I'm just going to introduce it this morning. On Monday night, we're going to go deep into this, and I'm probably going to spend a vast majority of this month dealing with if, on different levels, because many of us will often say if, and if represents a powerful possibility. If is a little word, like I said, is etymologically in size is small, but by nature, it connects you to a grand condition or a grand conditional possibility. Yes, all possibilities have a condition assigned to it. But many of us don't want to deal with the condition. We fantasize about the possibility, but we don't want to take on the work that is necessary for the possibility to become your reality. We have the word if used in scriptures. There's thousands of scriptures, over 1,500 scriptures that the word if is found in, such as if God can be for us, who can be against us? If there's a condition there. Understanding the role that if plays in our lives as it relates to possibilities is key. So I want you to really make a commitment over this week to not only listen to this right here, right now, be present to it, but to consider joining me on tomorrow night when I go into a deeper dive in this word if as it relates to the process of living in the field of possibilities. Now, we know, grammatically speaking, if is identified as a conditional particle. Now, I'm not going to go heavy into the grammar because that wasn't my strong suit. It still isn't my strong suit. I read a lot that helps me with it. But understanding the English language and the parts of grammar will help you not only be a better communicator, but it will help you understand many concepts and to move through life in a more powerful way. So it's identified as a conditional particle. That is, it mentions a condition or a circumstance upon which certain consequences follow. As such as if has a great variety of applications to it. They may involve blessings, punishments, opportunities. When we read the scripture, most of us align ifs with punishments. If I don't do this, this is going to happen. Whereas I think we should begin to look at the word if as a word that is filled with possibility. If is one of the first words that a child often begins to associate with logical thinking. The youngster, as it does not know anything about formal process of reasoning, much less does he know anything about conditional participles. But children, we have found, quickly get the significance of if. Not only if, but what. So an example of that is, Bobby, if you eat your carrots, mommy will let you have some ice cream. Or you find because of that, down goes the carrots, because Bobby already has learned the significance of if, the condition. Or if you touch that, this is what's going to happen. So we learn that if sets us up for a promise, or it sets us up for a possibility. As we grow, ifs become fast and furious, meaning we don't think much of them, but we make these if statements. They whip us into a logical submission to life. You know, we just are where we are. But I want to deal with dwelling in the field of possibility. There was a writer who write poems by the name of Emily Dickinson. You probably are familiar with her, and she wrote a poem entitled "I Dwell in Possibility." And I kind of summarized it this morning. It says, "I live in a house called possibility. It's a metaphor for poetry, her poetry was possibility for her. So I live in a house that's called possibility, and we all do. This is a more beautiful and truthful house than the one called prose. It has far more windows and better doors than prose does. The house of possibilities has rooms as strong as cedarwood, into which the outside world can't see. For its eternal roof, the house has the sky itself. Visitors to the house are the most beautiful and virtuous kinds of people. Most jobs here is the one I'm doing right now. Opening up my own little hands, I collect poetry, the divine substance of heavens themselves. So in this poem, she's talking about she dwells in possibility. And for me, if represents the possibility. If is a conjunction. It's a hookup. We look at conjunction, junction, what's your function? It talks about and, it talks about but, it talks about or. But I want to throw in if. If hooks up the possibility of what is to what you want it to be. But many times what we want something to be, we're not willing to do the work in order for it to be. It's something that we desire, but until that desire becomes burning and you're willing to put the action to it, you're not going to get the proper reaction. When you if you ever had the opportunity to be in a rail yard and you have some individuals who hook up the trains and they use the caboose to move the trains around and they hook them up, but somebody has to do the work. But now they have not electronic, but mechanical hookups. It just once you trip the switch, once you back that car up to the next car, it automatically hooks it up. But we have to learn that life has hookups for us, but we must be willing to hook up to it. We must be willing to not only hook up to it, but we must be willing to run the frequency to the things we want to desire. So by definition, a conjunction in grammar is a part of speech that connects words, phrases, clauses that are called conjuncts to the conjunction. If is also a word that we look at in hindsight. If I would have, if I could have. Okay, so if also it comes into a particular branch of recalling history called, they call it counterfactual theory. So this is a branch of history called counterfactual theory that used the what if. It asks the question, what if? It considers the alternate realities that might have emerged if the said hinges of history has swung the other way. It's been said that what if is the historian's favorite question. Okay, so when we talk about if, we're going to get to what ifs, but we want to look at if. There are over 1,700 ifs in the Bible. Most of those function as conditional conjunctions on the front end of God's promise. A lot of people can find those. If we meet the condition, God delivers on the promise. Well, I believe it's true. But many times we're expecting a God out there versus the God in here to do the work. So God may have a promise for you, and the promise still waits for you. And what is the wait? The wait is for you to take on the work. Many times individuals say, if things were different. When was the last time you asked if? Or if you can complete a statement right here, right now. If, what would you end? If I hit the lottery. Well, many people say, if I hit the lottery, but never buy a lottery ticket. See, we have these ifs and we just let it stand out there by itself. We don't hook the conjunction to something. And in order to effectively hook the conjunction to something, we must do something. We must be willing to do the work. Just like if I hit the lottery. Well, if you didn't buy the ticket, you're not in the game. And many of us have these ifs, which are great because ifs represents possibility. But to have possibilities and don't see them manifesting lends itself to frustration. And so we got to get some things right as we move into this conversation of dwelling in the field. And when I say the field, is the possibilities. Right here, right now, wherever you're living, whatever you're going through, you got to ask yourself, how satisfied am I with what I have? And then put an if on it. What could change it? If I what? If I had this, that, a lot of times we say, if I had this, things would be different. Okay, we can start with that. But you got to, what would it take you to get that? What is one step you could do today? Look at your life right now. What are you complaining about? What are you concerned about? What's concerning to you? What contrast are you dealing with today that you were dealing with yesterday? And do you know why you're dealing with the same thing today as yesterday? And usually it's more compounded today because it's growing, because we won't deal with the if. What the if is, what can I do? What one thing could you have done yesterday that makes today different? If you didn't do anything different on yesterday, what makes you think today is going to be a different day? Now, it will be different with more intensity. You won't like it. It'll grow because you're not doing anything. And what we focus on has a tendency to grow. So if you're focusing on the what is and not doing anything to conjunct it to what it could be, you're going to stay inside of the what is. So the conjunctions are important. We have to learn to use this conjunction called if in a more powerful way. The scripture tells us, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. But we don't think on those things. We really are thinking on the opposites. We really are thinking on the contrast that we don't desire to continue to have manifest in our life. We got to learn to think opposite. You got to learn to hook yourself up to an opposite possibility. What is true. But here's the one thing I've come to learn. As a pastor, as a preacher, I didn't find as much gratifying work in just teaching or putting things out there to people. The most gratifying piece for me is often when I have a dialogue. So I love teaching, I love coaching. And as a life coach, I find people show up because they're not satisfied with life. But they've already made one big step by aligning themselves with a coach, by aligning themselves with someone who can help them get to where they've been trying to get to. Some things you're trying to do in your life, you just can't do by yourself. You have to take the first action step of getting assistance. You got to get off the longest river in the world called denial and come into the realization that I can't do it by myself. You have to understand that there are some conditions to life that you can only meet with the assistance of other people. For most of us, have to have our minds right. We have to learn how to look at things differently. And our thinking process is the way it is because we have taken on a certain way of thinking. So we got to change our stinking thinking to proper thinking. If is a powerful word. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can just stay present to the reality of what you desire, to the reality of what's true and not what is supposed to be true. There's a poem that goes, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give away to hating. And yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master. If you can think and not make thoughts your aim. If you can meet the triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it all on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they're gone, and so hold on when there's nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can feel the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. So in this poem by Rudyard Kipling, he's talking to his son, and he's talking about if, the power of if. If we can learn to wait and to be patient, if we can learn to do all that we can do, having done all that you do, then you stand. But until you have done all that you can do, you should be working. In the image that I sent you in the email today, it represents the power button. Like if you're cutting on your computer, there's this round circle with the line through the top of it, and that's power. It's a power symbol. Okay, a symbol that indicates that a control activates or deactivates another device. If is such a word. If is a powerful word. It activates a possibility, but deactivates a possibility and gives you the possibility without the express, deliberate and intentional. I can do this, and, but gets rid of that. But we have to learn about the if. So when we look at ifs, it was an if that caused the Wright brothers to fly. It was an if that caused the latest invention to be taken to the market. So if is responsible for possibility thinking. And until you start moving into the field of possibility thinking, all things won't possible. The word says, with God, all things are possible. The problem is we don't know that the conjunction or is you being hooked up as God. If you could be reconnected to who you are, not only to whose you are, because we often can identify that you are a son or you are a daughter of God or whatever verbiage you use to talk about something greater than yourself. But the one thing I like about the Bible or Christianity in particular, even though it's been highly adulterated, it gives us the basic formula for success. When you realize that you are not only created in the image and the likeness of source, but you have the ability to do at a level, not as great as source, but you can do that which is more than humanly possible. Too many of us are stuck inside of our humanness. Too many of us are stuck inside of our emotional selves, our physical selves, the things that are happening around us. But when you understand that this is just a container, but greater is it that is in you. You know, the scripture says, greater is he that is in me. And it's not a he, it's an energy. Greater is that which is in you that gives you the ability to be more than your container. There was a powerful commercial that I want you to get a chance to look at. The Ducks, which is a college team, Oregon Ducks. They had a commercial come out some years ago, and it talks about what if. What if there was no if? If sparks a revolution in each of us. If searches and researches. If opens doors. Goes for it on the fourth down, it says. If doesn't care about yesterday. Just 2 letters, I-F. Just these 2 simple letters. If. If sleeps never and goes for the extra. It all starts with if, because if becomes when, you see, because if becomes when, and when becomes now, and now becomes how, and how becomes wow. If will change your circumstance, your situation. If will change the game for you. If will change the world. So we have to understand, if we do something different than what we have been doing, we'll get a different outcome. I know many times you engage me and it looks like I got it all together. For the most part, I do have it all together. And when things are not together in my life, I look for the conjunction that's going to hook it up to the way I want it to be. I don't look for a hookup to come out from outside of me. I look for a hookup to come from the divine in me. Everything starts with if. Is your if connected to what should have been, what could have been? Or is your if connected to the possibility of what you want to see, what you want to be? Your if has to become. It starts with if. I like in that poem, it says, if becomes when. That's the next question. When will you do it? And when becomes now. All that matters is right here, right now. And now becomes how. Until you say now, why will the Creator give you the how? If the how is only given when you're operating in the now, if you're ready to do something about it. But most of us are not ready to do anything. We just want to procrastinate. An opportunity presents itself and you come up with a reason, if I didn't have to watch as the world turns. So we have to be careful that when the opportunity presents itself, that we don't miss the hookup. So now becomes how, and how becomes wow. You will only get to the wow if you first want to do it now, and then you'll get the how. You don't get it all together. It's a process. And too many of us don't understand the process of life. To live in the field of possibilities, that is, the reality of what you're dealing with today is actually the catalyst for you to go into the divine super being you are and to create. You are creators. You are co-creators. Greater is it that is in you than it that's in the world. So there's 2 yous. There's the world, the part of you that's in this world. And the scripture tells us to be in this world, but not of this world. And then there's another part of you, that greater part of you, who you really are, is inside of you. It's the energy in that makes you who you are, that gives you the ability to do the things you do. I can do all things through this Christ consciousness. Do this. What is the Christ consciousness? The understanding that you are a spark of divinity. Moving from the religious constructs that tie you to limiting situation. I'm only human. That is a direct result of one being engaged or engaging in religious thinking. You're focusing on the container versus focusing on what is in the container. You can do all things. You can do everything. It all starts with a possibility. It all starts with an if. It all starts with a dream. You have the power to do, be, or have. Somebody under the sound of my voice this morning or this evening, whatever time you're watching this, you're in a state of you're brewing in the reality of what has been versus realizing that what has been is gone. And it only keeps showing up because I keep bringing it into this day. Sometimes you have to just let things go. And the letting of something go is to release what has been and say, here's a possibility. Though you may be starting over again, I tell you one thing about starting over. You always get back to where you was a lot quicker than the first time you got there. I know it. I've been high and I've been low. The vast majority of my life, things have went well. The vast majority of my life, I would say life was an 8 on a scale of 10. But then later in my life, I had some experiences. And those experiences could have been devastating if I would have just stayed in them like Job. Wife, cattle, stocks, wife, cattle, and children. Everything I had was gone. The wife passed away, you know that. The children, as a result of that, did not have a strong relationship with me because when you see dad, I remind them of their mom. So it was better not to be around me. So a lot of things, but I let them have them. I didn't get into a pity party. I didn't even go see a therapist to say my kids don't want to talk to me or they don't talk to me. I just kept on living. I gave them the space to be who they were. I didn't allow them to define who I am. I could have easily say, how was I a bad dad? But fortunately enough, I had a track record to show I was a good dad. So I didn't get caught in that conversation. You can get caught in some if I could have or should have. You can't change the past. In a way you can. You can revision it. You could look at it as though it happened the way you want it to. These are all tools that you need to learn to take on. But the conversation I'm having with you this morning is many of us are sick and tired of being sick and tired. Many individuals are not happy with the mundane lives they're living. Things appear to just have happened to you. I say this to you, things are always working out for you. Even when they don't appear to be working out for you, they are working out for you. It's just a matter of washing your face, putting on a fresh pair of clothes, a set of clothes, and starting a new day, just doing one thing different. Maybe you want to go to the gym and work out. Just today, go to the gym. Tomorrow, you go to the gym and you go in the locker room. The day after that, you go in the gym, you go in the locker room, you change clothes, and you go out onto the floor. Baby steps. You don't always have to take the big step. It's the little step called if. If I do this, what will my outcome be? So you got to put some income in to get outcome. You got to put something in it in order to win it. And that little something is if. What could you do today that if you did it, it has the potential of changing your life? It's easy to just focus on things not being the way we want them to be or thinking how things ought to be. But things are just as they should be until you take action to change it. It's your world. You could create it as you desire it, or you can live in it as it is. And too many of us are living lives that is, it is what it is. If you're not happy with it, do something about it. What's the if that you need to deal with this morning? So this week, I'm going to go deeper into the if, the power of the ifs, the what if. Not a lot of times we can deal with the what ifs. Suppose I wouldn't have made that decision. That's a what if from the past. But let's bring it into the what ifs of the present. Suppose I make this decision. And see, sometimes you don't have to make the decision and do it right then, but you can make the decision of what if in your mind and play it out. And if you play it out, it's probably going to play out. And you choose the decision that serves your highest and greatest good. That is important. You are the captain of your ship. You control your destiny. I know you've been told that, it says God has all the plans. That is true. The word says many are the plans of man, but the end thereof destruction. But the plans of a divine person is found in where it's the scripture that tells you that I know the plans that I have for you. And see, the I knowing is the you, the I am of yourself. Until you get quiet, until you get to know who you are, until you get to become okay with your design, your authentic self. But too many of us are measuring ourselves against other people. Measure yourself against yourself from the perspective of, is this truly who I am, or this who I've become? Hopefully, who you become represents who you really are. And if who you are isn't who you really should be, you take responsibility. You change it. Nobody has control over you other than the control you give to them. Life does not have control over you, only as much as you give it. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. That's right. From looking at it from the perspective of I'm a victim is different from looking at it as I'm a participant. And as a participant, I have the ability to create the outcome I desire. As a victim, something, someone, some situation already has the upper hand. I'm just waiting for the last breath. But as a participant, you always are looking to stand in the winner's circle. Well, that's all I have for you this morning. What if? What if your life could be so much more grander than it is? And what would it look like? And what would you need to do to bring that into fruition? So I hope something has been said that's been uplifting and encouraging to you this morning, and that you can walk away with this and do something with it, and that you'll take on the possibility by saying, I'm going to hook up to this conversation on Monday night. I'm going to take a deeper dive. I'm going to face my ifs, ands, and buts. I'm going to slaughter my butts. I'm going to make sure the ands are only the ands that are taking me in the direction that I want to go, or connecting me to what I want to be connected to. I'm going to look at my if. Is my if limiting me? Or is my if creating for me a new possibility? If. All right. Well, I hope something has been said that's uplifting and encouraging to you. And I'd like to make the offer, or the make space for those who join me on Sundays that desire to sow a seed. You don't sow a seed into this ministry, into me, because I have a need. I don't have a need. All my needs are met. But you sow the seed because something of value has been given to you. You sow the seed because you found a fertile field that if I sow into this field, that I'll prosper. It says, give and it shall be given to you. And so this morning, I open that opportunity up for those of you who desire to sow a seed, not because I have a need or not because there's an appeal for greed, but you know the law of circulation. And I can think of no better place to circulate a portion of your seed than in this field. And if you desire to do so, you can go to oasisspiritualcenter.com. Go over to the giving tab, click it, and there's all the different platforms by which you can transmute what's in your hand into the ministry. I appreciate that. And I appreciate those who have continued to support the ministry. And I appreciate those of you who desire to give, but have not had it to give. But I say, start with what's in your hand. The act of faith will begin to cause what you have to grow exponentially. All right, that's all I have. Well, if you're with me this morning, you have some insight, you got a question, you want to say something. If you're on the the Zoom room, all you got to do is just raise your hand. You can raise your hand and I'll see your hand and I'll acknowledge you and we can address that. Hope you got something out of it. What is your takeaway? What is one takeaway you will take with you this morning? Anybody want to say that? If not, share with us. If not, I'm going to move on. Let me see if there's anything over on the YouTube channel. Dorothy says, this is awesome. It's a great word for me. If yes. Awesome teaching by JC Majestic. Good morning, JC. Love how you brought everything 360 now becomes how. That's right. Now becomes how. Again, I hope something has been said that's been uplifting and encouraging. Hook up with me that I can hook you up with your divine self. Oasis Spiritual Center for Divine Living is not a religious system. It's a spiritual pathway that you can be all that you've been designed to be. It's a place where you come to with like-minded people, with individuals who are authentically different than you, may have a different vantage point. But because of the universal truths that I teach, they land in each place and you take it and you cultivate it. So it's good to see you this morning, Tanya, Cheryl, Michelle, Felicity, Courtney, Mom, Amir. It's good to see all of you. I hope, again, something has been said that's been uplifting and encouraging. And I look forward to seeing you on Monday night. If you are in the St. Louis area, today is the inaugural Sunday time together, the place of possibility, 2 p.m. today at the La Meridian Hotel. You know, I moved from what if. The what if has become a possibility. What if I just do it? I didn't say when I get a following in St. Louis. I didn't say when I get a certain amount of money. I determined that this is what I want to do. And if I do it, if I build it, they will come. And so for those who are looking on, many times we don't follow through our what ifs because we're so concerned on what others see. It's not as important as to what for you as what others see as what you see. And what happens is if you see clear enough, others will see the same thing. They'll feel the magnetism and it'll change your life, change your situation. So I pray this morning to something being said to each of you. And then we will go from there. All right, you have a wonderful day. And we're going to go back to what we started with. We started this morning with the Schoolhouse Rock, dealing with conjunctions. And let's lead with that this morning. Conjunction, junction. What's your function?
What's your function?
Get up words and phrases and clauses.
Conjunction, junction, how's that function?
I got 3 favorite cards that get most of my job done.
Conjunction, junction, what's their function?
I got and, but, and, or. They'll get you pretty far. And that's an additive like this and that. But that's sort of the opposite. Not this, but that. And then there's or. O-R. When you have a choice like this or that.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up jukebox cards, making them run right. Milk and honey, bread and butter, peas and rice.
Hey, that's nice.
Dirty but happy, digging and scratching, losing your shoe and a button or two. He's poor but honest, sad but true.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up 2 cards to 1 when you say something like this. Choice, either now or later, or no choice. Either now nor ever.
Hey, that's clever.
Eat this or that, grow thin or fat. Never mind, I wouldn't do that. I'm fat enough now.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up phrases and clauses that balance like out of the frying pan and into the fire. He cut loose the sandbags, but the balloon wouldn't go any higher. Let's go up to the mountains or down to the seas. You should all, or at least say please.
Conjunction, junction, What's your function?
Hooking up words and phrases and clauses in complex sentences like, in the mornings when I'm usually wide awake, I love to take a walk through the gardens and down by the lake where I often see a duck and a tree. And I wonder as I walk by just what they'd say if they could speak. Although I know that's an absurd thought.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up cars and making them function.
Conjunction, junction, how's that function?
I like tied up words and phrases.
All right, guys. Think about it. What could change in your life if you did this and do that? Peace. Have a wonderful day. See you guys in St. Louis at 2 p.m. at the Place of Possibility.